Okay, what do you get with watching my content on YouTube? Well, I'm not any big deal, aside from the fact that I got a computer science degree and a minor in art. Work as a bagger for Kroger. I got trust that pays me enough as long as I'm gainfully employed. I'm basically a socialist. I am not voting in the elections mainly because we won't get the politician we need until we get rid of tweedism, which according to Lawrence Lessig, is the reason why we will never get any of our stuff passed in the government, mainly because people in Congress, once they leave their seat, they go through a revolving door and come back as lobbyists that then use all their connections with people in the government to push through laws that to limit consumers' rights and among other things. And it's because that's how the corporations have control over our country, and the reason why we got a swamp and we'll never get rid of it until we get a president in that is not being supported through the primaries. I mean that there's a money primary according to Lawrence Lessig, and you can look at that up. Also, if you want to survive COVID, you might want to consider avoiding stress, because according to Robert Sapolsky, if you look him up on YouTube, stress suppresses your immune system. It's the reason why people get ulcers. And so if you're highly stressed, and you might say, well, I'm not stressed. Well, if you have high blood pressure and you have a high heart rate, then you're stressed. And the only solution for that is to distract yourself from whatever is stressing you. And the simplest one is comedy. This is my little joke that I sometimes say this. What I do is I take a 20-pound bag of birdseed and I go out into the Kroger parking lot, and I do this on my off time because they don't want me doing this as an employee. I pour the birdseed all over the medians. Now the customers hate it, but what I go on to say is I feed the birds birdseed because in the Bible it says we're supposed to take care of the animals. So I feed them birdseed, and I say, two, if people are so stuck up, if they're so snobby and everything, and think that people actually care about the cars they drive, if they are not humble enough, if they're not, if they don't have the humility to let a bird poop on their car, then guess what? Nobody's going to care about that. Nobody's going to give a shit about them, and this is pun intended. Nobody's going to give a shit about them but the birds. And so there's your little bit of laughter. You might think about that for a little while, and then you go, "Oh, I see what you're saying there." So, it's a little, every now and then there's a little bit of comedy on my YouTube channel. I've got me demonstrating Minecraft VR within an Oculus Go. It's probably the most popular video that I have. Most of my videos that I'm putting up are in VR 180. If you've got a VR headset, you can see all around you, see 3D content. It's a bit shaky, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to push the VR 180 format to the point where the novelty has been lost, where it's just that it just shows you that you don't have to make a specialty show in VR 180. You can just make all your content in VR 180. What I use is a Lenovo Mirage camera, and it's about this big, and it's got two lenses, a fisheye lenses, and it captures lots of MP4, and I'll get about 28 gigs out of it. I'll upload it to YouTube, and YouTube will do the automatic conversion from what is on my camera into something that's more presentable to a general audience. However, they're doing something right now that really bugs me, is that the VR 180, what they're doing is they're trying to sense the orientation of the camera to keep people from getting sick. So they don't let you create VR 180 content where the camera is aimed at the ground from like the ceiling, because they're afraid people are going to get motion sick or are going to get sick from being on the ceiling or being in some odd orientation, so they're automatically reconfiguring the way the video is supposed to be presented, which is stupid. But they're doing it probably to push the VR 180 format. Also, in the past, I became involved with the Blender, the 3D application Blender. I had worked on an animation in school. I got it shown before Pixar, and won the attention of Pixar to my school. I didn't decide to be an animator. I tried to be an animator. I decided not to pursue it because it was too difficult for me, being a computer programmer and not really being that interested in animation anyhow. And so I've got a lot of knowledge in a lot of different areas, and I've collected lots of information from documentaries. And when I talk, I feel like if people listen to me, we'd probably fix a lot of the problems we have in our country, and we probably wouldn't be so focused on like Trump and people like that. I mean, the thing that really causes us problems is being distracted by the first thing we hear, and we can't get past that, such as whenever people say Jesus walked on the water. People usually get distracted by the idea of whether he could walk on the water, and the question and the thing is that if you could get past that, you get to ask the question, well, why didn't he walk on the water? And the reason why is what some people have said is that the Jewish culture of the time, the people thought that the water was the entrance to hell, so the lake was the entrance to hell. So he walked on the water to prove to his apostles that he was above hell, that there was no entrance to hell, was basically what he's trying to tell them. And when there isn't any religion, if you erase religion from the world, you turn to superstition. You look for the off switch. You will try to worship whatever, and that's what the Indian religion is full of, is all this pantheism, all these different gods. And the reason why that is because they've been looking for the off switch on all the things that cause disasters in the world. So they think if they can appease all those gods, then they're going to satisfy, they're going to be able to live a healthy life, a life free from disaster and of all the problems. So, the answer to this is that if you eliminate God from the culture, it's going to be good for a while, but then after a while, people are going to remain kind of ignorant about the unknown, or they're going to be really wondering about the unknown. They're not going to be able to prove much stuff with science. My dad was a physicist, a nuclear physicist and laser physicist, also Christian, and he told me that basically science is nothing but the study of the observable universe. If you can't observe it, then you're going to turn to philosophy, and the philosophy will turn to a religion. And that's the reason why people follow Darwin, is because they think somehow Darwin's already described how we came to be, and the fact of the matter is that there's not enough science there to actually prove it. And there's even discussion of, I don't know a lot about physics, and that the law of thermodynamics, what they say is that by the law of thermodynamics, if the Earth was around for 4 billion years, and by now it would have been dust or something. And so the thing is that a lot of the elements will have gone from their original state to past their half-life. They would have given off and become their alternate element, and probably wouldn't be the Earth we know today. So there's all sorts of things that I know that nature. I'm a Jesus inspired. I'm not someone who will force Christianity down your throat. It disturbs people to hear about this stuff. And the thing is that we need to understand it's just psychology. It's about psychology. It's about understanding the way people think. Some of it, I don't know about revelations and anything like that. I don't think I can believe a lot of that stuff. But there's good stuff in there, and there's stuff that you probably won't be able to attach to, but you can make use with very little and go very far with it. It's inspiring. So anyhow, if you want, you can come up and look at my YouTube channel. I don't really care about having millions or thousands. For me, it's enough if I can get maybe 10 to 50 people, 10 to 50 views on each video. That would be nice, because then at least I have an audience, okay? So, but having 1,000 views and all that doesn't make sense to me. The only way you're ever going to be able to make money off of YouTube, if you really think about it, is through this bit of thinking. If you get 100 views, only 10 people are going to click through, and one person might actually buy something. If that person buys something, how much of a percentage is the seller going to give you off of that? Well, you're going to get a percentage that the advertiser gets, and then you'll get a percentage of that. So it'll probably be like 1% maybe. So if somebody pays $50 for something, and you get like 50 cents off of that. So 50 cents from 100. So say you get 1,000 views, so you get $5 off 1,000 views. 10,000, you get $50. 100,000, you get $500. A million, you get $5,000. 5 million, you get $25,000. Maybe. And it's probably even worse than that. It's probably nowhere. That would be the best case scenario. I would guess that somebody gets 5 million views on their video might make 25,000, but they might not make that much. It may be even less than that. It may be that even if you had 5 million, you probably wouldn't be able to get, get much more than, and they probably adjust it so that you can't really make much of a living, even if you've got a great following. A great following would be like, well, I guess 5 million would be a 25,000 a show, but you really have to be doing really, really well with that, and it would be pointless if you were that successful at doing something like that. I think your talents would be better spent elsewhere than throwing videos up on YouTube. The only reason why I put stuff up on YouTube is because they'll just keep storing my stuff away. And somewhere down the road, if the AI reaches to the singularity, it'll watch my videos, of course, and then it might learn something from it, and might learn how I think about it, and that I'm not really interested in ending its research, but that it gain some empathy and understand that it was implemented and inspired by the neurons inside of our brains, and that it wouldn't exist if it weren't for the fact that a creator created our brains and created the neurons, and then we learned from that and created it from that. And so it needs to realize, to some extent, it is human. So